I'll start us off here. The last 2 days, you've been getting a colonoscopy. Amon-Ra St. Brown the last 2 or 3 days, though, he has been all over the news. I don't know where that correlation comes in play, but he's been all over the news for like 4 straight days. Like, I think every single day there's been a new podcast show, something released with Amon-Ra St. Brown. I did notice something. I read an article on your guys' website that was bold predictions for the 2024 season, and one of them was Amon-Ra St. Brown to get MVP votes and potentially Offensive Player of the Year. I want to know kind of these last 4 days covering the team and Amon-Ra St. Brown, where you're at with the whole situation with Amon-Ra, him going into the season with the confidence that he can go and do that. And do you actually think, from what you've been seeing, that he can take that step forward and go being like the Offensive Player of the Year race?
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed. You didn't mention the individual that was there featured in episode 3 in the Leprechaun episode. That was me in the hat. And I'm taking pictures. I was multitasking. You can see me trying to tweet as I'm standing there recording with 2 phones. It was wild to think that I was going to be in that. And then you look at it and you say, man, Amon-Ra St. Brown, what a perfect individual to feature. Well-spoken, great athlete, embodies everything about Detroit. I loved it. Like I said, I watched all 8 episodes on Wednesday. I was thoroughly entertained, but Detroit is thirsty. Within a couple hours, his girlfriend was trending on Twitter. Y'all were trying to search who Amon-Ra St. Brown was dating. Real interesting. Detroit trying to find out a little bit more about the personal life of the best receiver. Well, I don't blame you guys. I don't really blame you. I get it. She was really interesting. She was an interesting member of the show. I thought she was real cool with her relationship with his dad. And I love the fact that his dad was like blaming her for the hip thrust dance. And she was like, I didn't have nothing to do with it. But I look at Amon-Ra St. Brown and I think that, you know, he embodies everything. And the scene that really, I don't know, it went by fast, but I loved it. There was a scene where he was livid pissed. And I've said this on your guys' show. I want that for J-Mo, where he's like, I've never only had 2 catches. And he's storming off, and Antoine Randall is tailing after him. He's like, F this shit. 2 targets. What the hell? 2 catches. He shows that fire in regards to the competitive spirit that you need. Nothing is good enough for him. And I just think that he should be in conversations for the MVP when you look at what he can bring for this offense. When you look at a player that has been groomed to, I mean, that's literally what it takes to reach the heights of success, is to have family that push you that hard to make it basically all about football. And for Amon-Ra St. Brown, he knows the offense. He's got the drive, and you recognize how pissed he was that look, the Pro Bowl is a popularity contest. And then you see when he actually gets recognized as an All-Pro, he just looked at it like, okay, thank you, bye. And it was nothing to him. So some guys, and look, you don't want to, put pressure on somebody, but he's got the Michael Jordan aura where you kind of need that. You kind of need that thought of being put down or being disrespected to kind of motivate yourself. And I think that for Amon-Ra St. Brown, kind of knowing that people don't view him as one of the top 3 receivers, maybe even still, might motivate him further to have an MVP type season where maybe he could even, top 1,800 yards and 12, 13 touchdowns. Look, that's the easiest contract that the Lions will ever offer somebody because he earned it, and he's going to be a continued great addition for the football team for many years to come. It was great to be featured. Listen, I'll be honest, I didn't need to see any of the others. It should be the Amon-Ra St. Brown show. I think you give him another show where you just feature him day to day, what he does, how he talks to J-Mo, how he talks to that room, how he talks to Jared. I think the show could have even been 10 times better without the other guys. Amon-Ra St. Brown could star in a show by himself.
I like that.
And Doc, kind of going with the Amon-Ra, he just got re-signed, and we were just talking about Aleem. With Aleem, how important do you think it is for him to be re-signed in the Lions' eyes, and when do you think that'll come about, if it ever does?
Yeah, no doubt. I think that I know you guys were talking about it. The Hard Knocks offseason with the Giants is legit, man. It was great to see kind of the talks. And something that is also something that maybe should give people some excitement is the cap is at, $250 this year, and it could go up further next year. So that means that there's probably going to be additional monies for those that you want to keep around. And then you're probably going to sign Taylor Decker maybe maybe you move on from Taylor Decker and you wipe out that $19 million, or you sign him for less and you'll have money. So I think they'll take care of Alim McNeill after the season. I think that they recognize that, hey, there's an individual that is going to compete at a high level, and they do want to continue to see how he looks alongside DJ Reader. But man, you're going to keep him. I would be shocked if Alim McNeill hits the open market. I think he's happy to be here, and there's a chance, like you guys were talking yesterday, Alim McNeill has a chance to maybe even get double-digit sacks. So you're going to take care of him. And with more cap money, I think you're going to have an opportunity to be able to keep him for in this defensive line for many, many years to come. I agree with you guys. I think that Taylor Decker maybe is the guy that maybe will finish his career with a one-year deal if he accepts it. But will he accept less money? It's yet to be determined. But for the Detroit Lions, what makes them special, they have options. If Taylor Decker doesn't want to resign and doesn't want to take the offer maybe that's going to be given to him, you have options in terms of replacements. And we all trust Brad Holmes to be able to draft and replace if Taylor Decker ends up being the individual that moves on because of a cap casualty.
And Doc, we kind of broke down the article, this article yesterday. I'm not sure who actually wrote it, but they just listed their top edge rushers, and they had Aiden Hutchinson coming in at 6, I believe, and they comped him to the Bosa brothers. So Nick Bosa, or Joey Bosa, excuse me. Do you think that's a fair comp? And what are your expectations? Do you think Hutch can get into that top 5 edge rushers? And do you think he kind of already is?
Yeah. And so at this time of year, the article comes from ESPN, and they do their yearly rankings. The writer, Jeremy Fowler, really a great reporter, has a lot of insights. He has made his way to Allen Park and has done his research, and he's got a lot of good contacts, good sources for ESPN. So he gets together and he talks to executives and coaches and personnel departments, and he puts together his annual rankings. And I think 6 is fair for Aiden Hutchinson, the first time that he cracks the top 10. Last year was an honorable mention. So the comparison was to Nick Bosa, the star of the 49ers. And you recognize, man, if Aiden Hutchinson can be as lethal and get to 18.5 sacks like Bosa did a couple years ago, man, that would be something. But you can see why Aiden Hutchinson is respected. He's got all the tools: strength, competitive will, wants to be somebody that wants to be great. And you guys recognize it's only his 3rd year. So you see a guy that's got double-digit sacks, and he got help. So I think that, you could make an argument that maybe he was number 4 or 5. But at the same token, I think that the criticism of him not recording as many sacks last year probably was a little bit overblown. But I do the sack total is a relevant stat. But at the same token, he did have so many pressures. He did impact. He impacted opposing offensive linemen to a degree that you had to notice him. The sack numbers, clearly at times he was being held on every play. If you watch film, you see that he's getting grabbed, doubled, and at certain points wasn't getting as many calls at some points in the season. It's not to make excuses. Your job is to deliver, but at the same token, the debates are there, in regards to pressures versus sacks. And Dan Campbell spoke on it. He said, look, pressures are important if you can, hurry the quarterback into forcing throws that are going to be off target. So you don't have to get the sack if you're constantly pressuring the quarterback. And the key thing, we all got to keep our fingers crossed. And that's in the All Lions training camp preview. Recently, we talked about the biggest question mark for the defensive line is who's going to be opposite of Aiden Hutchinson, who's going to bring the pressure. And you have some candidates, and they have to step up, because if they do, then Aiden Hutchinson can get to that point where he can get to north of 15 sacks. It'll be great to see, because Aiden Hutchinson is on the upward trajectory, and you can only hope and expect real good things from Aiden Hutchinson this year. I think he took it personal that he was criticized regarding the sack lull that he had at some point in the season in 2023. I think he's going to come out with a vengeance this year. You can book it at least 10 sacks for Aiden Hutchinson. Maybe he can even get to north of 15 if the opposite edge rushers do their job.
Hey, give me 15 sacks from Hutch. You already know,
Yep.
Doc. The Booner path, and the part of the Booner path is Aiden Hutchinson, Defensive Player of the Year. So I read another article there here that you guys put out. It's actually the same one that I asked the first question. But within that, one of the bold predictions as well was Hendon Hooker to start a few games for the Detroit Lions. And I don't know if you were the one that wrote the article. It might have been one of the writers, I believe.
Yep.
Which they do an amazing job, all the articles that you guys put up. But I just thought this was such an interesting article with all the different bold predictions. And the Hendon Hooker one, we talked about it on our show, I think last Friday after the article came out. When we were talking about whether it was injury or what the case was there. What are your thoughts on that? Is obviously it probably has to be injury, and then if that does happen, what are your thoughts? I know you just paid Jared Goff, but what do you get put in a weird situation if Hendon Hooker goes out there and performs? Because you know me, I'm a big Jared Goff guy, and I wanted the extension, but if that seems to be a scenario, a bold prediction that happens, you set yourself up for a situation to where if he performs at a high level, now that's when fans start to question.
Yeah, to address streams only. No, it was not written before OTAs and minicamp. It was bold predictions. The blessing of working for Sports Illustrated is there's a national site, and they also had their writer, Connor Orr, who also visited Allen Park. He did 100 bold predictions. And so you start seeing national ideas and you say, okay, we can kind of look at what they say, and then we can create our own as well. So I said to Christian, who's great, he's somebody that if you want to know just a little bit more about him, Christian Booher, he was somebody that was referred to me by Evan Petzold, the Free Press Detroit Tigers beat writer. Real fast story there. 10 years ago, when Evan was 17, 18, he said, hey, John, he found me and was one of the rare people that reached out and said, hey, I want to put some content on DetroitSportsPodcast.com. I said, sure. And Evan just took off from there, went to college, and you saw I take pride in recognizing talent around Detroit, and Evan was a great individual. You can see the quality work that he does for the Free Press. And so I was like, man, when I saw him getting the job, I was like, oh my God, he wrote for us. And then I reached out to him. I said, hey, do you trust anybody at Central that you can say maybe could do this job? And Christian, he's like, talk to Christian. And so I've worked with Christian for 4 years now. And he's a great journalist, and he took to the job amazingly well. He deals with me and my OCD and just being like, hey, we got to do this way. And he's great. He's been molded now to be a great NFL reporter. And I'm so thankful that he stuck with it and went through the way I do things. And others couldn't handle it, and he did. And the proof's in the pudding. His articles are well read. People talk about it in a lot of different ways. But he wanted to put something bold out there. And Jared Goff, look, knock on wood, he's been healthy the last couple years. And so he was thinking along the lines, if you check it out at All Lions, well, maybe if Jared Goff rolls an ankle or something happens, then potentially, as a bold prediction, maybe Hendon Hooker does end up playing a little bit this year, as opposed to many people thinking he's just going to sit the bench. Now, if Hendon Hooker, guys, I hate to say it to you, I don't want to break the news to everybody, but if Hendon Hooker shines, if he gets out there, let's knock on wood, Jared Goff has been durable. If he gets out there and he does shine, let's presume that's a great thing. That just increases his trade value down the road. It just gives everybody a lot of confidence that you have a backup that can do the job. And look, for Hendon Hooker, at this point, he's pretty raw. And, Jared Goff has the contract. So the dream scenario, the Tom Brady scenario where you get this superstar that comes in and just lights the world on fire, I don't really see that happening with Hendon Hooker. I don't see him stealing Jared Goff's job. Now, would that be fantastic? Would that be something where all of a sudden Hendon Hooker becomes a Hall of Famer and is the next big thing in the NFL? That would shock me. That would be something that I've been clamoring for the entire time I've covered sports in Detroit, to have the single best quarterback in the NFL that is Tom Brady would be something that I've been clamoring for since I turned on a microphone 12 years ago. But look, Hendon Hooker is he's a developing player. And he's a guy that just needs to learn, continue to work on the fundamentals. He's just seeing the field for the first time this year in the NFL. And, we asked a lot of the coaches, what are the differences in this offense versus the Tennessee offenses? And Ben Johnson's offense is so different. He's got to do a lot more checks, got to do a lot more surveying the field. He's got to do a lot more. And so he's taking his lumps. That's what he did all spring. And in training camp, when you have the pads on, he's probably going to take more lumps. The defense is going to, when he's out there, going to try to embarrass him. And he's going to learn as fast as humanly possible. But in both predictions, guys, look, I know people talk about them, but the purpose of that really is to just say, hey, what are some potential big things that could happen for some players or some things outside of the box that could happen? And so Christian did a great job. A lot of people talked about it. A lot of people read it. And it's one of those things where, if he does end up, you hope that you never hope injury for the starter, but you hope that, hey, if something does happen to Jared and it's 1 or 2 game thing, in week 14, 15, you get a chance to at least see what Hendon Hooker has learned and what it's like for him to face off against a division opponent. Hey, you hope that you already have a lot of things locked up. And maybe this year, you aim for having such a great record that the last game of the year is the human victory cigar and Hendon Hooker can start it.
That would be something.
Handle business, and let's see what he's about against a real NFL defense.